There is not a clone fragrance or an inspired fragrance out there that can outshine these fragrances. This topic was brought up to me by subscriber the J Lauret, and they had just basically mentioned, hey Justin, do you ever find that there's original fragrances that make it hard for you to enjoy fragrances that have come after them that resemble them? And I'm like, yeah. I'm gonna present 8 of them here for you. These are what I would call iconic fragrances, and most importantly, original fragrances. They are essentially originators for slews of fragrances that may not exist if they didn't exist, whether that be clones, whether that be fairly directly inspired, or whether it just be closely related. These fragrances are the seeds. Now, are there fragrances that have come after an originator and have outshone it? I think so. And if you want to see a video about fragrances like that, then let me know. If this video reaches 1,000 likes, then that'll make it clear to me that you guys want to see a follow-up video to this one. But how about we dive into these 8 untouchable fragrances? And if you haven't tried them for any reason, they're all going to be linked in the description. In no order here. First one up here is from Serge Lutens. This is called Chergui. This came out over 20 years ago. What an odd fragrance to come out when it did. I think it was like 2001. I did not smell it back then. I was too busy trying to get Air Force Ones and sea walk during my lunch period. But Chergui hit the streets as this sweet, ambery, hay-like, woody, powdery, tobacco honey fragrance. It's an odd combo, but it's utterly timeless. It is so like itself. It is just itself. There's been many fragrances that have come since that resemble it, some of them outright and flagrantly, some of them more like coincidences, and they do happen, believe it or not, but nothing can touch the original. Now, does that mean you're gonna love this? Honestly, you probably won't. And why would I say that? Because I didn't love it when I first tried it. I got my hands on a more vintage bottle of this years ago when I first started making videos, and it just wasn't, I'll just say I wasn't enough for it. I hadn't grown into that type of profile yet. It smelled like just powdery, sweet hay. It just didn't quite resonate with me, but now I find it beautiful. I find it very elegant. This is a fall, winter, night out kind of statement piece without screaming type of fragrance. If you're looking to stand out from the crowd and you're someone who likes to carry themselves with more sophistication, then this one might be worth checking out. Again, it's iconic. That is Serge Lutens Chergui. Let me know what you think. 2007, we saw the Tom Ford Private Blend Collection, and honestly, there's a number of those fragrances that could be deemed originators. It was such a fertile and fruitful collection of fragrances to hit the market, and it has obviously caught wildfire ever since, including creating some clones of people trying to make bottles that look just like them. That's where we're at, guys. So after litigation and lawsuits and things, and even though Tom Ford isn't exactly where they were when they started this collection, still a great collection, and Oud Wood is still a phenomenal, seminal fragrance. Iconic and original. Now, it's not the first oud fragrance to be brought to a Western market on a mass scale, but it has done it like no other really did. This is oud in the most tame sense, in the most backseat, just kind of dry, woody, quiet, smooth type of oud, mixed with some rosewood, mixed with maybe cardamom, maybe some vanilla. There's a spiciness. There's even a little bit of an aromatic quality, almost a little fresh in a way. And it's kind of creamy, smooth, a touch sweet as it dries on the skin. People complain about the performance. Honestly, I get just fine performance out of Oud Wood, at least for the occasions I wear it for. I only need it for about 5-6 hours. That's actually more than what I need, and then I'm wearing something else, or I'm just gonna go shower or whatever and call it a day. Lots of clones of this one. Lots of clones of Oud Wood, but honestly, nothing comes close. And I'm not even talking about performance. A lot of people say, well, if it performs better, then it has outshone the original. I beg to differ. It's about the scent, it's about the quality, it's about the experience to me. Just because you can smell it and smell nothing else doesn't mean it's a better fragrance. It just means it's a stronger fragrance. And if that is what you prefer, then that's what you prefer, but that does not make it objectively an enhancement. Oud Wood is the king of this type of fragrance, if you're asking me. Not the king of oud. That's a whole different story. But as far as like understandable, accessible, westernized, woody fragrances that kind of feature oud, still the best. A slightly newer offering from the past 5 to 8 years, I don't remember exactly when this came out. This is Ganymede from Marc-Antoine Barrois. It's not often that these days we get these iconic scent profiles that are not only unique, but they also become seminal. They also kind of spread in terms of their popularity, in terms of their notoriety. And what usually comes from that is a bunch of clones, a bunch of knockoffs, a bunch of copies. And I want to speak to that for a quick second. I had a subscriber reach out and mention this in a comment. I saved the comment. I'm going to put it here on screen. And I thought it was very poignant. And I know even though it makes sense, at least to me, and maybe to a lot of you, it will still not make sense to a lot of people. It's funny how in the fragrance game, it's one of the few places, the few industries where we praise knockoffs, but you don't see anyone running around saying, forget Nike Air Force Ones, they're just trying to gouge you for your money. I actually went to this shop in China and I picked up some. I got them for 20 bucks. They look just like the original. Nobody's gonna know. We don't see people doing that with Hermes bags. We don't see people doing that with Bentleys and Ferraris. For some reason, fragrance is the one thing that we try to negotiate the value of. Anyway, I could go on and on. Maybe this is a video for another day. I didn't want to go off the rails, so I'm gonna reel it back in. Anyway, Ganymede, lots of clones of this one. Nothing has come close to this. It's Quinton Biche. The only thing that comes close to it is maybe other fragrances he's made that are resembling this, because he's been asked to kind of recreate it for different brands for a good reason. It is a very odd scent, but again, it's accessible, especially in the air. This is this metallic, minerally suede leather feel, a little bit fresh in a way, but not overtly fresh. Maybe a touch of citrus in there. Some immortelle, which is the odd component, can come off a little curry-like. Some people say maple syrupy in a way. Anyway, just kind of this culinary feeling to the scent that in the heart of it creates this oddness when you smell it up close. But up close, I love this stuff. And to me, as I've always said, it smells like the interior of a luxury automobile, like the leather interior, brand new. Many people will disagree with that, but that is the beauty of scent. So say what you will, but I believe Ganymede cannot be touched as far as anything that comes close, inspiration wise or coincidence wise. It's in its own league. 2006, this hit the market, and I will say this, I'm realizing this as I'm looking at this bottle here. This could technically be called maybe an inspiration, but I don't think that it is, just because of how much time is removed from what it could be inspired by to when it actually came out. And just the overall sentiment and vibe that it has, especially during this time for this house. I could not go to sleep at night saying,
yep, they copied Le Male.
This is a whole different echelon to Le Male. This is Reflection Man from Amouage. 2000s through like mid 2000 teens. Man, what a time for the brand. Original releases, beautiful cohesiveness. This is one of the seminal fragrances of that vibe, of that sentiment. And that's why I can easily say, no, they were not.
What are we gonna make? Well, Le Male was pretty popular like 15 years ago. How about we recreate that?
I don't think that's what happened. This is one of those coincidences, and the overlap is like crude at best. Anyway, this is a beautiful white floral forward fragrance for men, and a little sweet, powdery, kind of fresh. There's a nice little woody backbone from some sandalwood. It's definitely musky, some buttery orris. It is just a stunningly elegant profile for the daytime, for just about all year round use. Maybe not my top choice on the hottest day, but it's beautiful. In fact, I might wear this today. This is gonna be a contender for the scent of the day. I love Reflection Man, I always have. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think anything comes close to this? And I'm not talking about its successors like the flankers and all that. We're not talking about flankers because it's still tied to the original DNA. We're talking about other brands trying to take shots at what is popular. I don't think anything comes close. This next one from Dolce & Gabbana, literally the only Dolce & Gabbana fragrance I currently own. It's the only one I really care to own right now. And we're talking about Dolce & Gabbana The One. And this is the Eau de Parfum. Again, technically not the original one. The first one came out in 2008, and interestingly, this came out like 7 years later. It's so funny to see how the trend has changed. Putting out a concentration flanker like an EDP version, now it's like a brand would be lucky to wait a whole year to put out an EDP version. But yeah, 7 years in between them. Kind of similar with something like Aqua de Jo. That just what comes to mind, late 90s. And we saw maybe a couple that came after that, but it was Profumo that you could really call the first concentration flanker of it, the first EDP, and that was like 2015 or something. So it's changed, the landscape has changed. Nonetheless, I would call it an originator. I would call it so special. I would call it incredibly timeless. I've been saying that for a while. It is a tobacco and ginger forward fragrance with a little bit of this vanilla vibe, spicy. I don't wear it all that much anymore, but I'm never going to get rid of it because I really enjoy it. I don't really care much for all the flankers that have come since. At least I'm not caring enough to go out and grab them and try them all. I am fine with the EDP, and I think it's going to be around for a long time. And you know, people will continue to try to copy it and try to capture its glory. Let me know what you think of this one. Dolce & Gabbana The One EDP. This fragrance was ahead of its time. I believe released in 2005. A lot of stuff has come out that still kind of smells like this today. It's hard to believe that this smelled like this in 2005 and that we're still making stuff that resembles this fragrance. Not too dissimilar from Chergui, which is just like, again, so timelessly ahead of its time. We have this, Andy Tauer's L'air du Desert Marocain, and man, this is a fragrance that I first tried it years ago. I wasn't ready for it. I liked it, but I didn't see myself wearing it. It was this somewhat dusty, dry, sweet, ambery, rich fragrance. Beautiful transportive profile, artistic perfumery done in an accessible way for those who can appreciate distinction and specificity. And I've since grown into this. I really enjoy this stuff. It is still relatively new to my collection. I've only had it for a few months now, and I haven't really given it a ton of wear. I plan on wearing it more as we get into the fall time. Again, I think we can say that there's some fragrances that are out here that may not actually be here. If it wasn't for what this fragrance did to the industry, to the community, it really shot the brand off, and they're still doing great things these days. But what a special introduction to the fragrance community, and one that had a large influence on what has come, and I think it's still at the top. Let me know what you think. L'air du Desert Marocain from Andy Tauer. 2006, Terre D'Hermes. Terre D'Hermes, I've talked about it a lot. This is an originator. This is such an iconic fragrance as far as a masculine, male-marketed designer vetiver forward fragrance goes. Vetiver, not everyone's cup of tea, not easy to make the most accessible in an authentic way without putting it in the far background or without making it super clean and wispy and almost transparent and invisible. Nothing wrong with vetiver fragrances like that. I have many of them that I truly love, but we have to say that as far as a vetiver-centric fragrance goes, undeniably vetiver, Terre D'Hermes is what really started that, and I think it still holds the key. If you want the key, you got to go through Terre D'Hermes. Lots of fragrances have come since. Many of them I really enjoy. I've had some I do have, but if I had to pick one, if you said, Justin, you got all these fragrances that smell similar to Terre D'Hermes, including Terre D'Hermes, we're going to take all of them away except for one. Which one's it going to be? I'm going to go with the original. But I'd also have to choose the rest of its collection because, again, I love this collection in general, especially the Parfum version. If we could call the Parfum the originator, I would probably choose that one, but I'm going to go with the original. It's very versatile. It is masculine. It is distinctive. I love how specific it is. When you wear it, you just smell like nothing else in the room. Even almost 20 years later, it stands the test of time. It will continue to do that. Let me know what you think of Terre D'Hermes. I think this stuff can't be beat. And finally, probably the most controversial fragrance on this list, and you probably know what it is, or maybe you were waiting for it or expecting it, and it had to be here. I think in the last couple years, if you had asked me to put this video together, I may have left this off because I was a little disappointed in it. But my hope for this fragrance was renewed last year when I got a recent bottle of it and realized, man, all this stuff about batch, all the complaining,
That's not what it used to be.
no, it's not what it used to be, but that's what change is. You can't stop change. But man, it's still pretty dang good. In fact, it's a whole lot better than I was expecting for a more recent edition of it. It's Creed Aventus. Now this is an F batch. I don't know everything about it, but I've heard people say, oh, if you got an F batch, which is like a newer batch, maybe from the last year or two, that's a good batch. Whatever. To me, it's Aventus. I've had an old 2016 bottle. That was my first bottle of Aventus many years ago. I loved it. I got about halfway through it and it started to go flat. It's not what it used to be. It literally changed in the bottle for whatever reason, and it was a bummer, and I kind of lost love for Aventus, so I stopped wearing it. But again, it was renewed when I got this bottle last year, and I was like, you know what? I don't care that it doesn't last 10 hours like my old bottle used to. It doesn't last 10 hours. No. Does it last like 7? Yeah, it'll last me like 7 hours, and I will enjoy every minute of it because it still gives me that vibe that I don't think you can replicate. Say what you will about Creed, say what you will about their prices. If their prices aren't for you, if the performance isn't for you, actually saying what you will doesn't change anything. You might as well just say nothing and focus your energy on what you do want to spend your money on and where. All that aside, if you take all the clones and we stack them up, yeah, some of them are stronger, some of them are more present, they have more staying power, all of those things, but the quality, the vibe, the energy of a Creed fragrance, I don't think you can really replicate that. Now, that might not be enough for some of you to say, well, it's worth the money. I should buy it for the energy of the scent. No, if it's not worth it, then don't buy it. But if you're asking me about quality, I still think this is the top. How it smells, how it makes me feel. You can't, it's inexplicable. I'm trying to find the words, I can't find them. So I hope that it's coming across in my expressions and my energy through your screen that Aventus is still the top for me, not because it checks all the boxes, but just it being what it is has not been replicated yet. I'm just saying, even though it's been done 100 times over, Aventus is still king. Let me know what you think.